Good morning, everyone. It's a big pleasure to be here and share this work with you. I'm Alex Nogueira, a PhD student at Lisboa University and professor at UFMS in Campo Grande, Mato Grosso do Sul, Brazil, where I'm from, in fact. Architecture, in addition to the role of setting in the film industry, can also be an element of discussion, interpretation, and generalization. Many works have already been developed from this perspective. In this context, the dystopian universe presented in science fiction movie Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott and released in 1982, and its sequel, Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve and released in 2017, deserve mention. The film have a time interval of 35 years in relation to the conventional chronology and 30 years elapsed in fictional chronology of the original film. It's precisely this temporal window that motivates us to observe and investigate the endurance, transformation, and relationship in the domestic space, starting from the representation of the internal environments of the protagonists' apartments in both films. The goal focuses on being able to observe the spatial and functional variation of the weaving between the different time frames proposed by the films, in order to try to understand how they represent the relationship between space and technology in a broad sense, with the domestic domain. The methodology is based mainly on the comparison between the protagonists' apartments presented in each movie, our case studies, observing spatiality, domestic functions, types, uses, etc., through the development of a redrawing of the floor plans of both apartments and qualitative and quantitative analysis. So, we choose to explore fictitious architectural narratives made to House and Wright replicants as a means of investigating the relationship between technology and domestic in contemporary times. Let's start talking about the first move, where a lot of previous studies have pointed out the prevalence of a postmodern architecture and stylistic approach, and we agree with that, of course. And here we have two distinct domestic space presented in this first move to show the mix of Renaissance, Baroque, and Classicism influence. This is not the card agent, the cards or Harrison Ford characters home, but other homes presented in the move. And we can see that idea of to go to the future, recurring to the elements of the past, what is very important to the postmodern. And postmodern was a discussion, a kind of the architectonic discussion very present in the time the film was um, conceived in the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. Here we can see to perceive such influence is present in the urban landscape too. And we try to make evident this, putting side by side the Mayan Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico and Tyrell Corporation, the movie. It's very strong, the connection, I believe. And in the sequence, well, here we have the architecture providing a kind of a spoiler about the storytelling of the movie, because the same Maya influence is present in the agent Descartes' apartment. So it's highly probable he is a product of Tyrell Corporation. And that fact of being a replicant or not was very important when the movie was released. A lot of discussion in that time was made about this. Some kind of spectreship think he is a human or not human. And if we look for these architectonic issues, we can see in fact the move give us that answer. In the second move, this kind of discussion is very less relevant. And here we can see too, in the upper image, we have the Mayan beauty governor's house at Mexico too, and this influence in the work designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, Ernest Brown House in California too. And down the downward image, we can see the same panel present in all the apartment of the agent Descartes or Harrison Ford's character, and here especially in the kitchen we are looking for. This house designed by Frank Lloyd Wright was a set of the movie too, was incorporated as part of the house of this character. In the sequence, finally we arrived at the sequence move, Blade Runner 2049. Through this set of images, we can perceive a different architectonic approach, more tectonic, clean, and maybe brutalist. A very beautiful space with a magic power, evidently, I think. But it's also necessary to say, in some degree, we keep to having architectonic elements that clearly connect this move with the original one. In the later, I will show you that kind of perspective. Here we try to map some possible architectonic influences in this second move, like Ricardo Legoretta in Mexico and Peter Zumthor. We perceive the same kind of light work and the light compounding the volumetric expression of the sets. And we have two another source have already pointed out the connection with the Spanish Barros Vega work, what I think is a strong visual connection. It's very, very easy to compare these two images, for example. Now I will fastly show the other's house present in the second move. The first one is the unique non-urban house in all the two moves. In a protein farm, is this the set it's used almost in the beginning of the movie, the first scenes. Relatively familiar and ordinary one is a house not so different what house we know in some aspects. And this is a special home where the character is sheltered in this sort of igloo for health issues. The place is holographic immersive and poorly furnished, must be very terrible to live here. We in fact need this digital interaction to make this space more humanized or more warm in some way. The work and home are indifferentiated, and any coincidence with pandemic times isn't mere coincidence, I believe, because in this character, she has a health question. She can't have contact with no one bacteria or virus or something like this, and this space, her her shelter is absolutely isolated of the rest of the world, and she needs to live and work in the same space. So this dystopia is not so far from us, unsettledly. Here we have the apartment of Agent K, or Joe, if we prefer. It's a kind of impersonal studio. Here, a holographic projection named Joy can interact spatially with the protagonist. It's interesting to note that this ambience and this kind of dwelling, like a modern unité de l'habitation, in fact, it's very close with the described by the author of the original book, Philip Dick. And here we have the last dwelling presented in the movie. It's the actual home of Agent Descartes, Harrison Ford. He works in both movies, and it's take place in an abandoned hotel. I think he's very smart because it's a very good place to live. And in fact, this picture shows us the beautiful um, photography and the working with light the movie have. Here we can visually compare both protagonists' apartments, and aside some details, the idea of home seems follow a stability. In fact, both apartments, the oldest move or the newest move, is very similar in some way with we have in our cities, especially in our big cities. This scheme tries to show us the stylistic influence of the first move in the second, and it's possible to abstract the Mayan panel from the card's kitchen to the one in the new move, in the downward pictures. and we can see this transformation. The the panel of Frank Lloyd Wright's in some way can be translated like this influence, what make this space, this room, the kitchen, very particular and important for both narratives. And here we have the redrawings of the floor plans. To redrawing the floor plans, we researched other works that had tried this before, and we watched the moves a lot of times to feel and see all the details, like one space interact with another, and uh, some kind of build a spatial and mental space first to try express and draw after. And in fact, normally the studios don't build all the house or the entire space. They use separate parts as location and sets. And the filmmakers recur to edition to make that all parts looks like one single body. In fact, they are very effective into doing this. They know how to do. So what I show here are speculative drawing, and based in this speculative drawing, we can perceive that the new apartment is significantly smaller than the old one. Now we also see less specialized compartments and more flexible space in this casual apartment. For example, we have one main space that is the bedroom, the dining room, the living room, and we have the kitchen and the bathroom. And the other apartments more conventional with this specialized parts separated and not so integrated as the second. We believe that this feature can be showing us aspect of contemporary lives in metropolis, how I have said before. Here we organize this data and others in different way. We can see, for example, how many time each character spent into their specific homes in both movies, what kind of specialized space are shown in the movie, what kind of activity is developed for each character. As conclusion, we think that exception made to the holographic issues inserted somehow in both move through the sophisticated central computer or AI or artificial intelligence process. Regarding to the architecture or domestic universe, we conclude that no major innovation were proposed in fact. Perhaps because of the option already made in the first film to mix elements reminiscent of the past with punctual futuristic technologies. In a certain context, Adolf Loos has ruled about it. He established that the work of art is revolutionary, the house is humble, and we agree with that. In a way, perhaps this is a fitting description for the housing universe of Blade Runner's protagonists and relationship in the domestic space, starting from the representation of the interval environment of the protagonist's apartments in both movies. I thank you very much for having me here and to listen to me. And this is what I want to show you. Thank you once again.